Welcome everyone to CENMAC's Thursday 30, and this week we've got David Howard, who's one of our advisory teachers, and last week David covered the accessibility tools in Google, and this week David's covering Microsoft accessibility. So I don't know if people could just keep their mics off, and then if you wanted to ask any questions in the chat, or David, I'm sure, will be happy to answer any questions at the end. Is that right, David?
That's perfectly fine, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you
very much.
I'm just going to share my screen so that you can see, so I can show you a whole bunch of stuff. So if I just share my screen, you should now have a PowerPoint presentation up on the screen. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to run this PowerPoint and let's just get started. So in today's session, we're going to look at how we can help students get the most out of some of the tools in the Microsoft suite and enable them to access the devices and access their learning in a meaningful way. So you'll notice on this PowerPoint presentation, I've got some transcription coming along the top of the screen in Italian. I'm hoping it makes sense for the Italian listeners. So my name's David Howard. I'm an advisory teacher with CENMAC, and this session is being recorded and is available at this link. If you go to the website cenmac.com, Thursday 30 online training. On our website, it's up here in the training link, and if you follow that, it'll take you straight in, and this session will be up online tomorrow to follow. I'm going to put quite a lot of ground into today's session, so it may be worth watching it again and stopping and practicing with some of the settings. I've made my mouse pointer a little bit bigger just so that it's easier for you to see. And this is a nice feature to do with students to help them follow what you're doing when you're demonstrating on your computers. We support, as CENMAC, a whole range of different disabilities in mainstream schools, covering a wide range of things, and you can get more information on what we do as CENMAC on our website. But in today's session, we're going to look at how we can support EAL in PowerPoint, which is this piece of transcription across the top of the screen. We're going to configure Microsoft Edge to make that more user-friendly for students. We're going to look at some dictation tools. We're going to look at some reading tools using Immersive Reader and Reading Coach. We'll then look at live captioning, and if we have time, we'll look at personalizing Microsoft Word to make that more user-friendly for students. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how I set this up, the language transcription at the top of the screen. So I just come out of this PowerPoint presentation. In the settings, when you create a PowerPoint, in the slideshow show settings at the top here, you can turn subtitles on. And in the subtitle settings, you can set these to go where you want them to go. But one of the nice things you can do is choose the spoken language that the presenter's using, and then you can change the subtitle language to whichever language suits your student. Now, with many EAL students, just being able to read along while they're listening will help them engage and understand what's being said. And if you have many students with different devices in the classroom, these can be configured so that each student gets their own language and enables them to follow along. So once you've set that up and you run the presentation, then the subtitles work. So I've just opened Microsoft Edge here on my computer. And if you look at Microsoft Edge, when it opens up the landing page, which we're on now, it's quite busy. Someone's microphone's turned on. So the landing page in Microsoft Edge is quite busy. There's a lot of stuff going on this page, and it can be overwhelming for our students. So I'm just going to show you how to customize Edge to make it look a little nicer. We're using Microsoft Edge because it's a Microsoft platform. It's a Microsoft web browser. Many people use Google Chrome, which is a great web browser, but Edge has got the edge when we're using Microsoft accessibility features. So today I'm just going to be looking at Edge. And in Microsoft Edge, if I click on the cog in the top right-hand corner, I can configure how this is presented to the student. And at the moment, I've got quite a lot turned on in here. And this is how it comes as standard. I'm going to turn off all these toggle switches down the right-hand side. Promoted links, opening a new tab, showing any content, turn the widgets off, and I'm going to turn the background off. And this will just give me a much cleaner, tidier background, which reduces the distractions that our students have. Particularly students with ASD, they can get overwhelmed by the amount of information that that's getting fired at them. I've kept this tool on called Quick Links because this is just giving me links to tools I use regularly when I'm working, and this is the way I like it set up. This can all be configured and modified to suit the needs of the individual student, and it's worth experimenting with these settings to try them out. So there's my landing page in Edge, but there's a few other things I might want to change in Edge. I've got my favorites showing along the top here. These can be turned on and off. But one of the things I see on students' pages regularly is they have lots and lots of tabs open across the top of the screen. And I've only got about 7 or 8 there, and it's starting to get crowded. And often you'll see students with dozens and dozens and dozens of tabs open across the top of the screen, and it makes it impossible to follow what's going on. So if you go into the heading and you right-click, one of the tools I really like to use is turn on vertical tabs. If you turn that on, it takes away the tabs from the top of the screen and puts them down the side. And this opens up a window so that they're minimized when you're not using them, but as you hover over, they just open up and it's easier to navigate and work out where you are and which tab you're on. So this is just a nice way of modifying Microsoft Edge to enable students to have a little more, it's a little easier to navigate. You don't have to use it, but it's quite a nice feature. Another nice feature is one of the tools you can turn on is this tool here, which is the split screen tool. And I have a load of tabs open here. If I open the split screen tool, the page I'm on stays on the screen, but all the other tabs I've got open are on this side of the screen. And where this can be useful is if you're working between 2 or 3 different documents at the same time. Instead of having them stacked on top of each other, it just makes it easier to navigate between them. So that's the split screen tool up here. To get that split screen tool, I clicked on these 3 buttons, and then I went down to, no, I didn't. I went down to this tool, the cog at the bottom, and there's a whole bunch of tools you can turn on and off in here to configure. I'm not going to go through those tonight because there's just too many to actually go through. So after doing that, we're going to go now and have a look at dictation, a little bit of dictation. So I'm opening a blank document in Word, and we're going to look at some dictation tools and how dictation can be used with students. Now, as we were waiting for this session to start, one of our colleagues said she'd had a busy admin day today, so hopefully this will help with that. If you take one thing away from today, using dictation is a really powerful tool for speeding up your workflow and for helping students get ideas down. In Microsoft Word, there's a dictate button up here, and you can just click on that and it opens a dictation tool sometimes, and you can dictate straight into Word. I don't use that tool because it does this occasionally. There's a better way. On your keyboard, there's a Windows key on the bottom row at the left-hand side, and if you press that and press the H button, it opens up a dictation tool that will just start allowing you to dictate everything you say and write it down. And this can be configured there's a configuration cog here, so you can go into there and change the settings. And it'll just write everything down. Now, with many of our students, getting their ideas down is the big challenge. I find many students struggle with handwriting or struggle typing, or they have a whole flurry of ideas coming into their heads, and just being able to talk the ideas out and get them written down is a really nice way of helping them just get their ideas down. Now, you might notice as I'm talking, this doesn't appear to be writing everything I'm saying, and that's because it's using AI in the background to try and make sense of what I'm saying, and when I stop talking, it will write it all down. Once you've written your ideas down, reading them back can be a bit embarrassing because I often talk nonsense, so you do need to go in there and proofread it and correct it and check it, but it helps the student get all their ideas down on paper. This is something that needs to be practiced, and to practice well. If you get a student using dictation from year 7 and by the way through school, by the time they get to GCSEs, if it's their normal way of working, they can use dictation, and we can set dictation up to be used in exams. To turn it off, I can just click on the microphone, or I can use the Windows and H key combination on my keyboard. So I've got quite a lot of work written down there. One thing I'd advise teachers to do is remember to turn it off. Meetings or anywhere, it will write down it hears. Make sure you turn it off in the car when you're going home, otherwise it'll just give you a transcript of everything you've listened to on the radio all the way home. So just remember that you do need to turn it off. If you're using this in an exam, this dictation tool, the Windows and H, can be used on PDF files. So here I have a geography paper and I want to use dictation to write my answer. So I just choose the text field box, click where I want to start typing, and Windows and H, and now I can just transcribe my answer or dictate my answer into the exam paper. And this will go to the next line as needed, and then when you finish speaking and click stop, it just has it all written down, and then your answer's in the paper for you. So this can be a really useful and powerful feature that can be used in exams. We wouldn't use the Windows H combination for that, but we can dictate into exam papers. The next thing I'm going to look at, we're going to cover quite a lot again quite quickly here, and I'm going to run out of time, is reading back. And in this next piece of work, I've just loaded up a piece of work that I want a student to read or want to be read. And for many students, that would be just inaccessible. It's just difficult for them to read. I'm using my fingers on the screen to pinch and zoom in, and that can help students get more access to the page, but not for every student. If students are dyslexic and need colored overlays or different fonts, or if students have a vision impairment, they need a different size, this can be difficult. And what we're going to do here is we're going to, in Microsoft Office, we're going to click on the View menu, and there's a tool in here called Immersive Reader. If I click on Immersive Reader, what that will do is it'll change the page into a dyslexic-friendly page. So to get that, I clicked on View and Immersive Reader. It's the same content, exactly the same content, just presented in a way that's easier to access. And this can all be completely customized to suit the needs of the student. On this page, down at the bottom, we have a play button, and if I press that, I can slow the writing down. So I can have that page read back to the student. I can speed it up, I can slow it down, I can have a male or a female voice. So that's quite a useful tool for many, many students who struggle with reading. It doesn't help them learn to read particularly, but it does give them access to that written piece of work. And this can all be customized and modified. In the top right-hand corner of the page, there are 3 tools up here, and we're going to have a look at those closely and just see what they do to the page. If I click on the first one, which is the text preferences, we can set the size of the font. This is particularly useful for some of my students with a vision impairment who need a certain size font. Once we've set these settings, they are remembered by the system. So next time we go in, they will be remembered and we don't have to set them again. If I choose increase spacing, it just increases the line spacing between the lines. And we can also choose between 3 different dyslexic-friendly fonts. Change the colored overlay to suit the student, and as I said, once we've chosen these settings, they will be remembered, so next time the student goes in, the settings are there. So that's this tool here, which is the text preferences. Next one we're going to look at is the grammar preferences, and if I click on that tool, we can then start breaking this down to help students read. So we can break the words down into syllables. So nonsense, Dursley, break the words down into syllables. We can also use this when we're teaching parts of speech to identify all the nouns, all the verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. There's the labels on here. I can turn the labels on or off as well. You can turn all of these things on if you wanted to, but it would be a bit busy, and I would not recommend doing that. It just becomes too cluttered and busy. But it's a very useful tool for helping students when they're developing and learning their English language. The final option over here is the reading preferences, and this is where we're going to enter using the tool. If I choose preference, we can there's a bunch of toggle switches here we can use. So the first one we're going to look at is line focus, and if I choose that, we can focus in on which line we're going to have read back to us, and as it reads back, it will follow the reading. Preferences up here, and we can configure that or turn it off. There's a picture dictionary in here, And if I click on the picture dictionary and turn that on, and I click on a word, we'll have neck. It shows us where the neck is and gives us a picture. It doesn't cover every word, but it covers quite a lot of the words. And you can have the word read back to you. So that's the picture dictionary. We can translate into any language. And there's a massive selection of different languages in here. And I use this quite a lot. I've got students who need to access in different languages. So we're just using Italian for today. And you can translate the whole document or just by word. So if I translate the whole document, it will just translate the document into any language. So this is into Italian, and you can have that read back in Italian. Where this comes in useful is if you're in a meeting with parents who have no English, you can use the dictation tool we looked at earlier to dictate into a Word document and then instantly have it translated into any language and read back to the parent or the person that you're talking to who doesn't understand what you're saying necessarily. If you have any school documents, you can put those into here and translate those instantly as well. So that's quite useful tools. There's also a reading practice tool down at the bottom here, which is a relatively new tool. It's only about a little over a year old. And if I click on reading practice, what happens here is the playback button at the bottom is going to change from playback into a microphone. So that's changed into a microphone. And what I can do now is I can just have a go at practicing reading on my own. Many of our students are terrified and really intimidated about reading out loud in front of their peers or the teacher. So this is a way of helping students develop their reading on their own and getting some positive feedback. So I'll just demonstrate this by doing a bit of reading for you. So if I click on that, it starts a countdown and tells me to start reading. So Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you would expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious. The recommendation is you read for about 10 minutes, and these reading assignments can be set up in Microsoft. The student can read in a private room at home or in a quiet room in school without anyone judging them, and therefore less pressure when they're trying to read. What it will do is it'll give you an idea of how much accuracy. It'll tell you how this feedback will be sent to the teacher if you set this as an assignment, and it gives the student words that need practice. So I got 4 words that need a bit of practice there. So let's have a look at those words. This is my reading coach. So we'll have a go at this one. Perfectly. So it only ever gives positive feedback, although you can make the feedback a bit more direct. You can edit that slightly, but there's a really nice feature there that helps students develop their reading. And this can be set up in Microsoft Teams as an assignment for homework, for example, where the student can just read at home quietly in their room or in a quiet space at home. So what I'm going to look at next is how we can use Immersive Reader in other areas. Immersive Reader works in the whole Microsoft suite of tools. And in this example, I'm on the Newsround website. And in my class, I often get students to look at the Newsround website and read the news. But with every website, there's a ton of distractions on here. There's a ton of other stories down the side that students might be distracted on. There's the distractions across the top, the link to games in here. So your student might find this a little overwhelming and difficult to access. The fonts here are quite small as well. And you might have EAL students who might not be able to read that. So in the web browser, in Microsoft Edge, in the URL bar on the top, there are some little icons that are here. And you don't get these in Chrome in the same way. This icon here, if I click on that, opens up a choice of Immersive Reader or Read Aloud. And if I click Immersive Reader, it will change the page into the similar settings I had earlier and it gets rid of all the hyperlinks, it gets rid of all the images that aren't relevant, and it just gives you the text and the content that you want to read. And that can be read aloud. And it just makes it much more accessible. You've got the same options. Let me just go back and into Immersive Reader. You've got the same options that we had before. We've got the text preferences. We can set the size and the color overlay. And we've got the same reading preferences where we can translate into any page. Now, this page is in English, but if I had an Italian student, I can translate the entire page into Italian instantly. And any page can be translated from any language to any other language, which just gives it a bit more and enables students to access more things. So that's Immersive Reader in Microsoft Edge. And any web page, it will do that to and work on. So Immersive Reader works in Word, it works in all the Microsoft products and on the web pages as well. Something else that students have said to me in the past is they've said to me, I wish that my teachers came with subtitles. And getting students to focus, we can turn on live captions in the classroom. And when you're using your large computer, the large screen at the front of the class, if you go into the system tray in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, where the microphone and speaker is, if you click in there, it takes us to accessibility. And there's quite a few settings in here, but we're just going to look at live captions for now. But if I go into live captions, what this does is turn on a caption bar along the top of the screen. And if I'm showing a video, I just leave it like that and it will transcribe the video. Or if I click on the cog, I can go into preferences and include microphone audio. And as a teacher, in several of our schools, we now have this set up so that this is on the whiteboard at the front of the class. So whenever the teacher's talking, the teacher's got subtitles. And this helps students focus on what's being said. And also for English as a second language students, it helps students identify word shapes and sounds and read along. So it helps build language skill as well. That's a really nice feature that I use a lot. And again, there's quite a bit of customization in there. You can set the position, the language, and any preferences. Filter profanity is quite a nice feature to have turned on because students will try and see what they can get it to say. This will pick up everything that's said in the room. So if you're using this as a teacher, I'd recommend having a headset or a microphone around your neck, just so it picks up your voice rather than the whole class. So that's live transcription or live captions. And to turn those on again, we're in the system tray in the bottom right-hand corner. Just click and into accessibility and then live captions. There's a bunch of other things in there that might be useful as well to try and experiment with. I would highly recommend experimenting with all kinds of different features when you see them like this. We just don't have enough time to cover them all in one session. So that's live captions. So the final thing I'm going to show you is just something, it's word ribbons. In Microsoft Word, if I just go into Microsoft Word, these ribbons along the top have got hundreds and hundreds of different settings. And if I go into them, you can expand on them, and there's loads and loads of different settings. And the reason I want to show you this is because I had a student who's got a computer, and he can spend most of his lesson configuring the exact right size font and the exact right size settings so that he gets this computer the way he wants. He struggles really just to get his ideas down because there are so many options up here to distract him. And if we go along here, there are dozens and dozens of different options in these ribbons that can be overwhelming for some students. And we might want to just strip this right back and make it easy for students to access. So I'm just going to show you very quickly how to modify those ribbons. If I click on the File menu, down in the bottom left-hand corner, there's an Options link. And if I go into the Options link, it takes us into this page. And in Word, there is a massive amount of customization available. But we're just going to look at Customize Ribbon for now. If I click on Customize Ribbon, and we have a look at the commands list, if I look at all commands, Word has something like 2,000 different commands that can be used. It's massive. And there's a whole range of customization you can do. The ribbons along the top, these menu options along the top here, are all highlighted and turned on by these buttons down here. And what I've done is I've created my own ribbon, David's ribbon. And if I turn that on and then turn all these others off, click OK, what I get is David's ribbon. I don't get any of the choices. And in this ribbon, I can create a new document, I can save my document, and I can print my document. And that's it. I can't change the font sizes, I can't change the colors, I can't, and I've only put 3 tools in there, and there's about 2,000 you can choose from, so you can experiment and try out which ones work, which ones you like, and build custom ribbons. And for one particular student, this is something I've done just to help him focus and stop getting distracted by other things. It's quite a faff to change, and there's a lot in there and a lot of options in there you can choose, but it's worth experimenting with and seeing what you can do. And you just need to turn the ribbons back on that you want, and there are lots and lots of them, and you can experiment with how you can customize that. But you can then customize the look and feel of Word so it makes it more accessible to students who are easily distracted. So if I just come out of that document, I don't want to save that, and I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. So we've now covered looking at the EAL tools in Microsoft Office, in PowerPoint. We looked at configuring Microsoft Edge. Let me just go back into here. Configuring Microsoft Edge landing page. We looked at dictation, use of Immersive Reader, live captions, and personalizing Word. So all of those things, there's many, many, many more things we can do in here, but they're just some of the things where you can do customization that can help very quickly in the classroom and quite easy to set up, but you do need to experiment. So that was what we covered today. I hope some of that was useful. And if you just take one thing away from here, you've learned something. I like the dictation tool. It saves me a lot of time. I use it all the time. If you found that useful, please just click on this QR code, and that will give you a link to complete an evaluation, so we get some feedback on, and I know how to change this training next time I run it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you very much.